Hello, welcome to Inside Cottonwood. I am your host today. My name is Tim Elinski. I'm the mayor of Cottonwood, and joining me today is former Mayor Diane Joens. And today we're going to be interviewing Diane about her decade as mayor of Cottonwood and really having a wonderful conversation with Diane. So thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Tim.
Thanks
it's an
here.
honor to be invited.
Good.
And now I call you mayor.
I know, it's a little strange.
For
right?
years you called me mayor, and we're going to switch now.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for me not to refer to you as mayor. Yeah.
Diane is fine.
Yeah, okay. So you were mayor for a decade in Cottonwood, and but you didn't start out as mayor. You started out as a council woman. So can you tell us really where your political career started and what inspired you to serve?
Well, actually, my political career started when I worked for Yavapai County Supervisor Chip Davis for 4 years, 1998 through 2002, and I observed him and thought, wow, this is a person that really connects with the people, that really does what the people want within any possibility of doing that. And he just set such a great example. I always said he was a training ground for elected officials because Linda Norman also worked for him and became a Cottonwood City Council member.
Right.
So that started it, and then when I retired, I was asked by a friend to serve on the city council, and I filled out the paperwork and ran and won, and then decided I would run for mayor because like all mayors do, you look around and you see how you might be able to help or make change or assist the public, and so I ran for mayor.
And was that after two years of serving on council, or 4 years?
I was 4 years on the city
okay.
council, so I've served 13 and a half years altogether. And the reason that it's a half, which is really weird, is because the state legislature decided that cities and towns in Arizona had to change their election dates to fall of even years, I believe.
Right.
And so we got, everybody on the council got a year and a half tacked on to their term. So it's,
I recall.
Yeah, it's different
Yeah.
to say 9.5 years because usually it's 8 or 12 or, but I did receive my 12-year pin from the League of Cities and Towns, so.
That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you served as mayor after Reuben Hautegue had served, and he served for a decade as well.
He served for 10 years also.
So what, in your opinion, what is it that separated you from Reuben as mayor? What were some of the biggest things that separated the both of you?
Well, just like you talk about now with what you see as not enough service to people, I wanted to find more ways to interact with the public, and we did that. We created community meetings. Also, we did not, I mean, this isn't a criticism of former Mayor Hautegue at all, because he was a great mayor. But what I wanted to do was to have the council get together for a retreat. We had never done that.
Right. So
we've gotten together for retreats every year, except this past year.
Right.
We did not, but I'm thinking that, you know, the future council could do what they wanted to do.
Okay. So you feel like your role really was to bring the council together with these retreats, and you feel like maybe that separated you from former leadership?
Well, I really don't know if I want to compare myself with former leadership. I think each mayor has their own goals, their own desires to where to lead the community. And the most difficult thing about being a mayor is that you, in a council manager form of government, you aren't exactly what the public thinks you are, and you don't have as much power as the public thinks you do.
Right.
And to me, collaborating with the city council, I had as a mayor a wonderful city council, a few tough years in the past 3 years, but before that, really a wonderful council. We just hit the ground running. We didn't always agree with each other, but we disagreed, you know, agreeably.
Right.
And I really think the citizens of Cottonwood have always expected that of our council, that they have expected us to not fight each other, to work for the good of all. And I'm very proud of the council. I mean, if you look at the accomplishments of our council and our city manager and his staff in the past 10 years, we have done amazing work.
Right.
And there was a lot of fake news during the campaign, a lot of information that wasn't true. and a lot of information. For instance, that water rates went up 400%. You'll hear every candidate say that. And if you actually look at the truth, no one ever goes to the finance director and asks for the truth. They just create this little fake news stuff, which they even believe themselves. And if you get it was less than 100, and there's reasons for that, because the companies were combined to make them more efficient. And so, you know, it's the things that we were able to do with conservation by owning those companies has been amazing. We reduced the pumping of the aquifer for people's needs by 1/3. By owning those water companies, we removed the arsenic that was an unfunded mandate by the federal government. You know, we were able to do things that were amazing. And state leaders look at Cottonwood in economic development and conservation and say, wow, how did you do that?
Right, right.
So I'm really proud of our council, and I think that the record speaks for itself in the things that we accomplished. Right. With, you know, some people say that we spent too much money, but if you look at, we have a 3% sales tax. And we provide services. They're always saying, oh, you know, you have spent so many dollars based on each person that lives in Cottonwood, which is fewer than 12,000 people. But do we serve 12,000 people? Our budget has to encompass about 40,000 people, really, that expect, you know, services and pay for them by shopping in the city.
Certainly.
And so they do their share too.
Yeah. You mentioned our former government, being a city manager, former government, and so you say that the mayor doesn't have as much power as people think, and that's interesting, because when people think of a mayor, of course, they're thinking of mayor of New York or mayor of Chicago, who has, you know, supreme authority over the city. And so how
they
did
can fire and hire somebody on the street.
How did you balance the city's expectations of what a mayor's role is versus what our former government can actually accomplish? Yeah, how did you balance that?
Well, I tried to be really, really respectful of the, you know, the council and the mayor set policy. And people do expect more than their mayor. Your fellow council members will look you in the eye and say you only have one vote. And you only do. Right. But you also have the responsibilities of chairing the council. It's your responsibility to kind of, if council gets over to the side from staff, to be able to help balance that out, help the communication. You're expected to communicate with the citizens, and yet I often referred their issues to the city manager, because it's not my job to take care of the day-to-day operations. And in fact, if I try to do that, I'm going to be hurting the city, because, you know, micromanaging it just doesn't work. Right. You know, it's hard not only for the city manager, but it goes right on down to every person that does any job. You know, and a lot of the jobs that people have, they're actually the face of the city, because they interact with the public the most. So it's very difficult to, you know, sometimes people are upset about their water bill, or that they had a big leak and it cost them several $1,000s because it was on their side of the meter. And to try to explain to them that the city council can't go in and forgive that $2,000. You know, that is something in policy that we created in policy, but staff, you know, they have to work through staff on that issue. So just helping the public understand, you know, that if the city fails or doesn't fail, it's not just the mayor. I mean, a lot of people tried to say that I made the city fail, and I'm like, what? You know, you don't exactly understand a council manager form of government or how budgets work. You know, the city code says that the city manager will bring you a budget, the council. But the fact is that, you know, we pass it, it's our policy. Right. And so it's our job to ask the questions about the budget and make the changes that we feel, as 7 people or 4, you've got to have a majority, you know, 4 people want for the city. And so they pass that policy.
Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a brief break here, and when we come back, we're going to continue speaking with Diane, former Mayor Diane Joens, and ask her some questions again about Cottonwood, how it was different before her leadership and how it's changed since. So please join us again.
Hey Gabby, how you doing? How's the play date and sleepover?
Dad, it was great.
Awesome. Okay, I'm on my way. Hey guys, what are you doing?
We're going swimming. We're going biking. Yeah!
I'll see you in a little bit, guys. I love you.
Hi, babe. How was school today?
Hi, Dad. It was great.
Okay, honey. I'll be home soon. Remember, you're never too far away from your kids to be a dad. Reach out and take a second to check in, because sometimes the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Thanks for joining us again. This is Inside Cottonwood. I am Tim Elinski, the mayor of Cottonwood, and with me today is former Mayor Diane Joens. And we're having a great conversation about her accomplishments in Cottonwood as mayor for nearly a decade. We have a few more questions to go here, so thanks for coming back. Okay, Diane. Cottonwood 10 years ago was quite different. And when you took over as mayor, would you describe, please, how Cottonwood was different then, and what sort of changes you've seen, and what you could hang your hat on as far as major accomplishments?
Well, some of the things that I'm most excited about that happened in Cottonwood, as soon as I became mayor, we had a group of citizens who were talking about a dog park. And so working with the city manager and staff, and then getting the council support, the council voted to give us an acre of land, I believe, for the dog park. So the citizens actually created it. The community garden also started just as I became mayor. And so the council gave them an acre of land, and that was a little bit difficult because the citizens that started it didn't all get along. That is something that you find as citizens have great ideas, but they're volunteers, and so sometimes their lives go in a different direction. And essentially the city gets left with it all. The city gets left with taking care of it, managing it into perpetuity. Verde Valley Military Service Park is something that I'm very proud of, and all of my work with veterans. We got a group of veterans themselves mostly, but community members, raised $26,000 for Homes for Our Troops for the Jordan Maynard home. And it was so exciting just to work. When you work with veterans, it's just really, they'll do anything to help other veterans.
And your husband is a veteran too, the Vietnam War.
Yeah, my husband's a Vietnam veteran, and so that means a lot to me to we never really, through 30-some years of marriage, ever once talked about Vietnam and his service because it was locked out.
Certainly.
But in the past, maybe few years, we've talked about it a little bit more, and he's opened up a little bit more. But that is something all Vietnam veterans, or many Vietnam veterans, came home to scorn. People spit on them.
Sure.
They weren't respected after all that they had given, you know.
Has that inspired you to, I think that, history will remember you as a mayor that was certainly very supportive of veterans in our community, and having a husband serve in the military, did that inspire you to do more on behalf of the veterans?
It did inspire me, because even the Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day that we all worked very hard on and I participated in, that's finally saying to this group of servicemen, thank you for your service. So yes, that inspired me greatly to see when Paul came home how he was. And he was farming, but if he heard a sonic boom, he was flat on the ground in a second. Through the loss of our children and how he reacted to that. So all of that inspired me to want to serve them.
Right. Good.
Yeah.
So in 10 years, another decade from now, what do you think people looking back will remember as your biggest accomplishment for Cottonwood?
Well, I really believe that the council, because I don't think that I did anything myself, but the council, I was very pleased. We were a very environmentally inclined council, and everything we did had the touch of environment on it, and you're big on the environment also. But, you know, saving water, and we know that growth will happen, but what we said is, well, we're going to use reclaimed water for construction. We're not going to be pumping potable water out of the ground. We've got this, so we made a 24/7 way for anybody to get reclaimed water at any time of the day. That's something that we did. The purple pipe, that was always something very exciting to me. We're laying purple pipe anytime we redo a road or a street. And we are looking to the future to provide reclaimed water to different areas, especially parks and that. And so I was really kind of always behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, I was always pushing the bicycle committee, the bicycle, and I'm pleased to say that we have bronze, but I will say that I did the mayor's bike ride every year, but it was tough. And I'm so happy a young person like you is going to be riding that bike, because you're probably going to make it up that hill better than I did.
I certainly enjoyed riding with you during the mayor's ride.
So you came along, but now it was tough for me in the later years. It got to be hard, but yeah, something else that I was excited about is we got a 2 rating in our fire insurance because of purchasing the water companies, and all we did for water, you know, putting in fire hydrants, and we added 300% capacity for fire on some of the streets and roads that we built. And so when you get a 2 rating, we're one of 8 cities in the whole state that have that. And you know, it means that people's insurance bills go down. And so that was very exciting to me. And like I said, reducing the pumpage out of the aquifer and all of the streets we built. When I came in as mayor, or as council member, council member, I had remembered a survey that the citizens did where they said streets and roads were the most important thing to them. And I really believe that people like to see things that their money, you know, they don't mind paying the 3% sales tax if they can see that street being built. And so we did a ton of streets, and you know, sidewalks, bicycles. To me, you're building a street today and it's more expensive to put in sidewalks, but those sidewalks are going to last for 100 years. You're looking at your future. Why should our children walk in the street with cars and pickups and buses and trucks? Why should they? We should have sidewalks for our children. So, you know, you can only build a street a year, but we actually put a lot more into our budget on streets, and I think my leadership influenced that.
Yeah, very good. What was one of your biggest challenges in serving?
One of my biggest challenges, I think that in the later years of service, that with social media, it got especially easy for people to express their First Amendment rights in anonymity. They didn't have to say who they were, and so they could be just as vicious as they want. I think that First Amendment rights come with responsibilities, that you have a responsibility to communicate in a way that helps your community. But basically that's like 1% of the population, you know, but they have a very loud voice. And I think that's been, you know, the thing that maybe will make others not want to serve. You know, I think the pool of people that want to serve may be less, just like our pool of police officers is getting less and less because of the trauma the whole United States is going through right now. And why do people want to serve? You know, I mean, so that I think has been the thing, and you even saw it in this with the school. I mean, some school superintendents were just ridiculed, you know, in anonymous comments in the newspaper. And even what really got me was one 8th grader. So the school was going to have 8th graders write, an editorial for the paper. And the very first one, the adults attacked this child in the comments. Anonymous comments.
Wow.
And the newspaper publishes that stuff, or did at that time. And so the school never published another 8th grade editorial.
I see.
Because their child got attacked. Why do we have to do that?
Certainly.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's my thing is, we have First Amendment rights, so let's put some responsibility with that. Let's make our negative comments with solutions. How can we do better? Because goodness knows we're not perfect as elected officials.
Certainly. No, I agree, and I think it's difficult to inspire people today to serve in office because, given what's going on nationally with public servants, police department included, certainly a difficult environment to get involved.
And really, our Cottonwood employees, I just feel that they really care about the public. I'm very proud of their work. People say, well, you should do this and you should do that. But I always said, you think I'm responsible for everything, but I don't drive a fire truck. And I don't, run to emergencies and give CPR, and I don't, I'm not trained in doing that, those things. And so the council doesn't do all those things. We're a group of volunteers, really, essentially volunteers. And we rely on an excellent staff to do all of those things that serve the public.
Right.
And councils shouldn't be expected to know how to drive a fire truck, but some people think they should,
All right. Well, we're going to take another quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to interview Diane Joens a little bit more. So thanks. Again, this is Inside Cottonwood. We'll see you shortly. Thanks.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.
Thanks. If you're just joining us, my name is Tim Elinski. I'm the mayor of Cottonwood. This is Inside Cottonwood, and today interviewing Diane Joens, former Mayor Diane Joens. So I wanted to share a little fun fact with the listeners out there. You were a rock star.
Hardly.
Tell us about that. Share with the group. What was the name of your band?
Better Than Nothing.
Better Than Nothing. That's what I couldn't remember. I know you told me before, but you were in Iowa, right?
Yes, in the olden days when I was younger, we had a little band and I played guitar. My husband played bass, and on a farm 2 miles up the road, my friend Susie played guitar and her husband played drums.
Okay.
And we had a great time. It was just something fun to do. And
Right.
I spent a lot of time, I taught guitar lessons to some children in the community. They would come out to the farm and I'd spend a half an hour teaching them something. And I just saw, in fact, yesterday on Facebook, saw one of my students, who's all grown up now,
Yeah.
and has kids of her own,
Right. That's great.
playing music.
Now, did you tour around Iowa or play any
Well,
gigs?
we went to, we did
Yeah.
gigs.
Okay.
We did, we played in Dow City and different towns around our area.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, and we had these big old speakers and electric guitars, and So I've been thinking about digging out my guitar and maybe playing it.
Yeah,
again.
you should. Some might say that's where your political career began, as a rock star, right? So entertainers now can become presidents. So.
This is true. Ronald Reagan was
Ronald
a
Reagan,
movie
that's
star,
right.
right? Yeah.
All right, very good. So I wanted to ask you too. You accomplished a lot as mayor of Cottonwood and as former council member too, but there must be something that you didn't get accomplished, which you really wish you had. Can you go into some detail on that?
I didn't really think about that question. Of course, there's always things that you wished you would have accomplished. Something that I didn't get accomplished but would have liked to was that I did not agree with the Water Advisory Committee disbanding. And I fought that as hard as I could, but I didn't win. And I wanted to bring that back because we have no communication with the other communities in our watershed.
Yeah.
And I think it would be nice if we did, you know, in a collaborative thing. I also wanted to talk a little bit about regionalism. I think Cottonwood is extremely in a regional player, and I used to keep a database, and when Apple changed programming, it disappeared. But I used to keep a database of the regional projects that we worked on with other communities. And as far as what I'm going to do in the future, something that I would like to work on is getting funding back for the heritage funding. You know, that was all swept by the legislature. And in fact, I was just invited to a Parks and Heritage meeting. I think my reputation, I have a reputation throughout the state in these areas, conservation and so they're asking me to come down and have a conversation about how, you know, we can maybe get some of that funding back. You know, cities and towns benefited greatly. Some of the things out at Tavasi Marsh were funded by those funds, and they're gone now. Something that, you know, I am proud of is our interactions with Dead Horse Ranch State Park. And when times were tough, our council agreed to do all of the water testing for them, which they told us saved them $50,000 a year, and we're still doing that. And I think that's something. So yeah, I think the WAC maybe was probably what I consider something that I wished I could have made more of a difference in.
Certainly.
And
you are you're a graduate of the Flynn Brown Leadership Academy, and I think as part of their program, you're hoping to get into some statewide leadership roles. Is that correct?
I've already, I've been, since I graduated, I think, 2012, I've been a member of the Governor's Council on Aging, and I plan to continue that. Every 8 minutes, there is a person in the United States that is diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is going to be a financial burden, a caregiving burden, that's just going to expand, you know, as the baby boomers, my generation, gets older. And that's going to make it harder for the younger people, you know, so whatever I can do to help. Fall prevention is something we work on. If an elderly person falls, it usually impacts their lives drastically, and mostly they never recover. So then that's harder on the families and the caregivers, and keeping people in their homes, you know, rather than putting them into institutions, I think they're happier and it's less expensive, so we have to look at those ways. I'm also going to stay on the Governor's Council on Aging, the Verde Valley SciTech Festival. That was something that I was trying to resign from, but Jeremy Babinger, who's the Arizona director, called me up and said, you know, we just got that $200,000 grant, and if you don't stay, you might not get the grant. I'm like, okay. So I'm going to keep working on that, and Cottonwood has been wonderful. I mean, the city manager's office, the finance office, police, fire, everybody's pitched in. And the issue is that if we don't if we don't promote as a community, it's not just about schools and kids, is as a community, if we don't promote science, technology, engineering, arts and math, STEAM or STEM,
Right.
without the arts, then, you know, we have a global economy, and our kids might not be getting the jobs that are coming available. It might be global, you know, and we want our kids, we want our youth, we want our graduates, we want our folks to have opportunities in these science, technology, engineering, and math jobs.
Absolutely.
So that's part of that. I'll still stay with the Verde Valley Military Service Park and stewards of public lands.
Good. Well, I'm sure that for myself and many members of the community, we're certainly glad that you'll still continue to have your hand on many issues facing our community. And
But getting lots of time to do other things too. And you know, last night's council meeting, about 6 o'clock, I was like doing something at my house that I should be doing. And I'm
Please
like,
don't tell me you tuned in.
no, I can't. I don't get it. No, but I was like, oh my goodness. I would have been studying all day, studying my packet all day long, had to get all prettied up for a council meeting.
Right.
And then I would have had to go to a meeting. And I was, the very first time, I was so grateful. I didn't even miss it, one little toenail.
Okay, well that's good. That'll be the light at the end of my tunnel then.
That's all right.
All right, well, we have to wrap it up here today, folks, but this has been Inside Cottonwood. Again, we were interviewing former Mayor Diane Joens. My name is Tim Elinski. I'll be doing one of these programs a month, so please come back and join us again.
And
Thank you.
Mayor, thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you. Thanks.